our program for the evening. Dana Sednek, an experiment in community and affordable housing. So Dana is the CEO of Live Online Learning Solutions, LOLS, a learning technology consulting practice that enables employees to do their best work with power, connection, and purpose. Her 19-plus year career is focused on digital learning, technology enablement, online learning, and collaboration. You can tell I say these words a lot. And helping learning innovators align with their customers faster through design thinking. In her spare time, Dana co-founded Denver Modernism Week, an annual celebration of all things mid-century modern in her hometown. Serves as HOA president of her historically significant neighborhood, South Dahlia Lane, and collects era-specific costume jewelry. The community Dana will be sharing with us tonight is a very special one, and I think important on many levels, locally and nationally. It's special and done by one of our most loved modern masters, Gene Sternberg. We all know his contributions, and while I never met Gene, some of us here knew him well. His work holds a special place for many of us. And with that, Dana in her talk called South Dahlia Lane, Experiment in Community and Affordable Housing.
Well, thanks, Josh. Thanks, Docomomo, Colorado chapter. Thanks, everybody virtually on this call today. I am really excited to be here to talk about one of my favorite places, South Dahlia Lane. And South Dahlia Lane, or as it was originally called, Mile High Housing Association, was actually designed as a solution to the scarcity of affordable housing after World War II. It's a pretty special place. And we're going to talk about kind of three components of SDL, or South Dahlia Lane. We'll talk a little bit about, give you an introduction of the lane, an overview, welcome, if you will. We'll talk about the great experiment that the Mile High Housing Association both is and is uniquely. So we'll talk about a cooperative and its historical significance. And then, so that's like past, and then we'll move back into current times and talk about some of the legacy norms that tend to endure in terms of our traditions of what it means to live in a cooperative. All right. So let's begin with a nice overview. I like to say, hey, welcome to South Dahlia Lane. So South Dahlia Lane is, it's this one-way kind of stirrup street designed like a horse's stirrup. And though it is surrounded by Denver, the land is actually part of unincorporated Arapahoe County. You can locate South Dahlia Lane off of East Iliff, west of South Dahlia Street. We've got 32 homes. We've got a tennis court, a park with a very significant and cool amphitheater. And of historical significance, we actually were the first, and we believe the only single-family housing cooperative ever backed by the FHA in the 50s. So we'll talk a little bit about some of that detail. Here's what it looks like today as the Google Maps overview. You can see the stirrup live in action there, and that bunch of green in the middle, which is our park. We like to refer to that as the green. It's a 2.5 acre park, and our street is designed to be one way, though not all neighbors think that it is. And there's points of contention whether or not parts of it are one way or not. But if you are a local, you will not walk on the sidewalks. In fact, you will walk around the lane on the street. Here's a quick pic of some of our homes in the lane that are kind of current. in what they look like today. There's actually five, three homes with two different types of options for a total of 5 homes. So you can see there are some that are just one floor, and some that actually are like levels, a couple of different levels there. So let's talk about the significance and the historical sense of like how Mile High housing started, how it began, and some of the historical journey that made South Dahlia Lane what it is. I like to start with our notable founders, and in fact, I like to start with the ladies of South Dahlia Lane because these women are the ones who started it all. In fact, Kay Johnson, and she actually was the one who kind of started it. So in fact, all of our founders started out as DU professors. Speaking of those Kinoset huts and the Ritchie Center, they actually lived on campus and went to a conference all together, and were driving back from the conference complaining about how tight their housing was, how hot it was, how it was not a great experience for growing families. And so Kay was musing in the car. She said, "What are we going to do for more space?" As she asked the group coming back from this conference. And she said, "Well, wait a second, we were in a farm cooperative back in Madison. Why not have a housing cooperative?" And that's how it got rolling. So Barbara Sternberg and Kay and the rest of the moms of the lane, they were kind of the ones who came up with the idea and continued the pull through of the community. In fact, Kay and Barbara, along with the original kids of the lane, started a newsletter called The Breeze, of which we have copies since the 50s of this kind of annual, weekly or monthly newsletter that was designed and developed by the kids. It is adorable and amazing to be able to look at this, designed by Lane residents. So contextually today, we actually no longer have any original residents in the lane. Sarah, the open house / sale that you came to was the last of our original residents' home. And so now we just have about 3 kids who are original kids who grew up on the lane, who actually live in the lane, which is pretty awesome. It's fun to listen to their stories. So we've got Kay and we've got Barbara. And then of course we have their husbands. We've got Byron and we've got Eugene. And Byron and Eugene, both in their passion pursuits as well as in their careers, helped really define and enable this cooperative to actually become and exist. So we all know Eugene Sternberg as designed around, he actually built all of his future projects, of course, designed around social architecture, but this is in fact his first and his neighborhood for his family. Byron Johnson, he was an economics professor and actually turned congressman. So he was our Colorado congressman in 1959 to 1961. This important role is going to be a part of the story of how we were able to really kind of pull this grand experiment off. So it started with Kay's idea. Byron and Eugene and other DU professors came together and said, "You know what, this is a great idea. We should do this." So in 1948, the South Dahlia Lane, the professors who came together who wanted to start to build this cooperative, they optioned a site, and it was the alfalfa field, W.W. Hanson's farm. And so as you can see, kind of stretched out there in that big square, that is what they bought it for. Any guess for how much this 11.4 acres cost our professors in 1948?
$25,000.
$25,000, actually $12,000.
Wow.
Right? Wow, right? $12,000 for 11.4 acres. So that's what we paid. Initially, there were actually 36 home sites that were planned, with each lot being like 85 to 115 feet wide. But in the end, it ended up being 32 homes. Each house is individually sited for maximum privacy and good orientation. So when you come walk across the lane, you'll say, well, wait a second, all these houses don't look the same. Well, they actually do look the same. They're just oriented around differently. It's pretty cool. So how did they pay for this $12,000? They actually initiated some capital payments met by dollar assessments on every family monthly. So each family paid $50 for the land option and $300 to complete the purchase, and then additional payments over time, kind of ending up in that $50 range, which is pretty great. Yep. So after they auctioned it and started to identify where all of the 32 sites were, they realized, oh, wait a second, we just bought an alfalfa field and the water infrastructure isn't fit for urban development. What in the heck are we going to do? So they promptly coordinated with these up and coming business owners at the University Hills Plaza and in the shopping area, and independently funded, managed, and installed a commercial water and sewer system. So we became the management of bringing water to the University Hills area. Once we installed all of those at all 32 sites, they actually did it before any FHA financing was secured. The FHA officials were like super horrified to discover that South Dahlia Lane had spent $50,000 before we had our long-term financing assured. And Gene, like the practical man he was like, well, we just put it in because it was good weather and we could get it done. So I don't understand why you're horrified by it. It's fine. We just gotta put it in. We gotta put it in the utilities. We've got good weather. We're just gonna do it. So, so we optioned that, and then let's see here. In 1949, this is when Mile High Housing Association became a nonprofit, cooperative, and incorporated. Gene was the architect. He designed 3 house types, 2 of which had 80 options for a total of 5 house plans. The average cost of each house was $12,000 per unit. 3 different types of roofs: slant roof, gable roof, and a third one. The 2-bedroom house cost about $8,000, 4-bedroom house, 12, or 13, and then the largest home is going to cost about $23,500. These 4 basic floor plans ranged from 850 square feet to 1,660. You got a choice of carport. There were 3 types. You got a choice of roof. Also, like I said, 3 types, and all but 5 were built with fireplaces. The multifamily homes, the biggest of the homes, also had radiant heating. The National Life Insurance Company was the one who insured the construction loan. The construction loan for all 32 homes, $367,000. And it started with, that fund that they took up for $50,000 a month plus some other things. They had $90,000 to start for, from the 32 families who came. Bill Brown Builders, which is a lot to say, built the homes. And as you may notice, as we go through some more pictures, we mentioned Frank Lloyd Wright earlier today. Stearnsburg's designs were inspired by the Poblaky House and Frank Lloyd Wright in terms of some repetitive, distinctive elements that might reappear in the designs for both South Dahlia Lane and a couple others that we'll talk about today. So we wanted to become a cooperative, and we all wanted to be able to kind of independently, collectively, fund this kind of new way of living as a cooperative, if you will. And in 1949, the housing amendments of 1949, Congress actually allowed this collective housing to be federally insured. Do you want to know how we might have done that? because we had a congressman right in there helping to lobby what this thing might look like. So Mile Housing Association, of which we were originally called. In fact, we were called Mile High Housing Association, comma, South Dahlia Cooperative is our official name in the FHA rules and regs. We were the first federally insured cooperative in the US, the first to take advantage of a new federal post-war housing program, providing financing at low cost for this type of housing. In fact, our documents formed the basis for the FHA's first booklet on federal guidelines for cooperatives, and we designed the application. They didn't have an application process, so we actually designed the application process that we used to be able to apply to these new opportunities for funding. The housing amendments and in the National Housing Act, our section is called Section 207, and that's where it's guaranteed under. So our funding is guaranteed under Section 207 of the National Housing Act. This is really important here later in the history of the lane. Okay, so the National Housing Act had Section 213 in 1950. Section 213 is where all the rest of any cooperative housing in the United States is and is under, even today, right? So we're in Section 207. Everybody else is in Section 213. 1950, this is when we started to break ground. The mortgage commitment purchase has been obtained. We have Byron Johnson up there on the stage in the groundbreaking ceremony. According to all of the notes and some of the original kids, there was never a missed opportunity for a ribbon cutting. So ribbon cuttings happened all the time, celebrations of any kind of milestone. This is what they did. So gathered, celebrated, groundbreaking ceremony held April 1st, 1950 at 4 p.m. They started building and they used an old streetcar. They actually had an old streetcar moved into the middle of the lane that functioned as the construction office. During construction, it was really interesting. There were two houses, the Johnson House and the Sternberg House, Julie. Their foundations were actually originally built facing the wrong way. So imagine all the houses are facing inside, and they accidentally built those other two facing outside of the lane. So they had to flip them around. And the Kennedy House, the hot water was piped into the toilet. So there you go.
That still happens.
That still does happen. It's true. Oh, okay. So construction begins 1950. We've got all of our plans. They decided on 32 homes so that we could get extra privacy. We could set them in different ways on each of those spaces. And because Jean had the foresight to think about ensuring that there was additional and enough space to accommodate additions to the homes. So we actually have a brochure. It's called the Mile High Housing Association brochure. And the Mile High Housing Association actually did not make a profit on any of the land, on the development, or the construction, but we actually were the bank and the purchaser and the owner of all of the debt and the the total management. Like, we manage the entire thing internally, which is pretty amazing. So how did it work? We didn't make a profit. And when members wanted to leave the association, they actually surrendered their portion of the lease. They were granted 99-year leases and would surrender their portion of the lease, which new members would assume. Again, we finance the turnover of members through our own reserves, our own cash flow, and our own management. And it was not unusual for families of the lane to move from one smaller house as they grew into bigger houses on the lane and vice versa. In fact, there's always talk about sidebar negotiations of like, hey, what if we moved into your house and you moved into our house? It happened quite a lot. 1951, finally getting into building and building beyond the houses. So in January, the first family moved in. In spring of 1951, all the remaining houses were occupied. The interesting thing about South Dahlia Lane and as a cooperative, we actually bought everything as a group, cutting purchasing and delivery costs, and in fact, saving all of the receipts. If you are a history buff and would like to know more about the details of all of the receipts that we had in South Dahlia Lane, they're at the main library in downtown Denver. There are 12 boxes. In fact, one of those boxes is not to be opened. It's not allowed to be opened until 2027. And so we're waiting on moments to see. It's like this this nice little history box that we'll get to open. My guess is that there's probably financial stuff in there, so they closed it. But all the details of everything, any interaction, any transaction has all been saved and recorded in these boxes. And the library has deemed the neighborhood significant enough that they keep and maintain this in the Western genealogy records. So 1951, everybody moved in. It actually, there was a delay in building commencement and the beginning of it. There was construction worker strikes happening. And in fact, this seems today like a very fast process. It was only 36 months that lapsed from the first meeting of the Mile High Housing Association to the final members moving into their house. 36 months they did it. That's pretty amazing, right? Yep. In 1949, we actually also built a plan for a community building that never got built. It was supposed to be in the middle green. In this eye chart of a landscaping plan, there are, it's so detailed and really amazing. In fact, it was designed by our famous landscape architect, Walter Fessman. And we continue to work with the Botanic Gardens on making sure that we maintain the essence of what the original landscape architecture plan was. There is, of course, we have our tennis court. There was plans for horseshoes over by the tennis court. I think maybe that existed at one point in time. There are etchings of a softball diamond in there that you can see. That doesn't exist. And there's supposed to be a shuffleboard court or badminton court or something that is supposed to be in my neighbor's backyard. So there was this this whole kind of over designs that didn't end up getting built. I love this picture. Just the element of all of these things. There was always some kind of carport option, which I love. This one is really great. You can see there is no landscaping that has been done yet. And in fact, once everybody moved in, that next year, they ran out of budget. They paid for the design and did all of the labor and work themselves. And so it was group work. There was a lot of bushes and trees and all kinds of landscaping that came together. In fact, some of the legacy that endures is we have a lane cleanup day as a result of that every year, where we all get together to be able to kind of clean up everything after the winter. And so they used to do this actually more often in the early days. And if you couldn't participate in manual, there was actually a charge. So somebody could pay to get out of it, or they had to pay with their time and their muscles. So they put all of the landscaping collectively together in everybody's yards as a cooperative. In the 1950s, this whole concept of togetherness, when you think about cooperative living in the lane, This quote is so great because I think it's perfectly reflective of what the vision for what a cooperative was all about. This concept of togetherness, Sternberg says, starts with the site plan, extends through the architecture, and ventures into human relations. Unambitious project indeed. Sternberg went on to say, the physical design of Mile High housing expressed in concrete terms his philosophy about housing. He says, I felt strongly that houses were like people, they needed neighbors. I always preferred to design communities rather than single homes. Here in South Dahlia Lane, I managed to put into practice some contemporary site design. The layout took the care and the needs of the people who lived there, and the needs for safety and intimacy were considered through the design. So Jennifer Boone, who is Sternberg's daughter, wrote this amazing article. You can find it if you Google Jennifer Boone, buck50.org. It's a little bit more details about South Dahlia Lane and the cooperative living and lifestyle. These two pictures are actually of my house. And so it's really neat to see the difference between how it is today and what it's like to live there with a more kind of open kitchen design, not that galley kitchen over there on the left. But there it is, two neighbors sitting there and the kids kind of on the floor. This is likely how you would see my house today, where there is at least 3 to 5 teenagers in my house at any time, only 1 or 2 of them being mine, playing and entering and leaving, and not knowing exactly where they are, but they're somewhere in the lane. It's fine. Okay. The 1950s really built this kind of community cooperative sense that we worked on things together. In fact, we planned all of those areas and we built them together: the playground, the tennis court, the common park area, or the green. Byron Johnson goes on to say that one of the wisest things that we ever did was hire a landscape architect. I could not agree more, because that architecture plan and design is what we use today as we go to reuse and rethink the design, because all of those trees that were planted in the 50s have ended, they're at their end of life. Okay, so we're going to fast forward from the 50s all the way up to the 80s. And in the 50s through the 80s, everybody lived, the life together in the cooperative. People exited and entered. Leases were given back to the co-op and then taken on by new owners. Old owners moved from one house to the other. It was kind of negotiated in how you did it. Actually, in the 80s, 32 homeowners, we all paid off our original $500,000 loan 5 years before it was due. By the way, did I tell you what that loan rate was? It was 4%. So it was a 4% loan. We also then got a 5% discount on the remaining balance because we paid it off early. They had a party. It's quite delightful. There are more pictures. They burned the mortgage document in one of those fireplaces in the neighborhood, which is pretty cool. So that was paid off in October of 1986. And before that, when you wanted to be a part of the cooperative, before we moved into a different kind of ownership structure, you had to be approved to join the co-op. In fact, you had to be sponsored by a member and approved by the membership committee. How do you get approved, you ask? To be considered, a prospect must be of good moral character, have a neighborly disposition, must desire not only to enter into the community life, but to contribute to its development as well as enjoy its benefits. Byron Johnson was the first president of the project's board of directors, and he believes that the phrase neighborly disposition is the key. All it is, he says, is a feeling of sensitivity to your neighbor's sensibilities. Mile High is strictly for the joiners, the well-adjusted, and the people who like people. All right, so 1986, we pay off our collective mortgage. We are now cooperative homeowners that have paid off the the mortgage as a whole. And in 1986, we also come to realize that we held on July 25th a special Mile High Housing Association meeting and identified that by a historic quirk, we were organized under Section 207 of the FHA housing details, right? And not Section 213, therefore are not eligible for dividends from FHA cooperative insurance funds, meaning we couldn't get insured as a cooperative. Every other cooperative in the United States is able to get insurance. We were not, because we were in the wrong section of the act. So we were facing a ton of challenges in the 80s. Housing upgrades, how are we going to do that? How do you appraise the value of the house upgrades that people do, especially when they move from one to another? How do you borrow against equity in your house if it's collective equity? How do you pay off outgoing members when inflation was insane and there were new tax reform laws? How are we can't even deduct mortgage interest. How is this even going to work? So by the late 80s, the members of Mile High Housing Association decided to move away from the cooperative association model and to dissolve. So each of the association members planned to exchange their share for a warranty deed for their property. Members figured out that about the regulations about tax payments and values of the homes and all of these things. And so we made the transition, and the changes that were made in the Federal Housing Authority regulations actually allowed us to be able to exchange our cooperative shares into warranty deeds without a tax penalty, which was going to be another giant barrier to the transition. So in 1989, we stopped being Mile High Housing Association and actually formed the South Dahlia Lane community. So South Dahlia Lane Community, SDLC, now and we continue to manage the common property, but we do it as an HOA. And everybody owns their independent houses. And we actually administrated all of the outstanding loans and mortgages for the Mile High Housing Association members, which is why I think that box is like secured or whatever. I'm not really sure about any, it's like all those financial details or whatever, but like we functioned as our own bank up until the 90s, which is pretty crazy. So, so we formed an HOA. We became like traditional. We stopped being a co-op, but that actually doesn't stop people from asking if they hear of our neighborhood. I get asked quite often, "Oh, you live in the commune down the street." And so we have to say, well, no, it's not a commune, it's actually a cooperative. And they're like, oh, same thing, it's fine. So today the HOA manages the shared collective property, which includes the green. It includes, we have a back park that includes also, it's like the side part of our tennis court that we maintain as well. And we have our special amphitheater in the middle of this park here. And in fact, the amphitheater was built by bricks that the Mile High Housing Association original members like took from the Grant smelter downtown when it was being torn down. So the Grant smelter was the world's tallest smokestack. They experienced this like handful of demolitions, then revivals and demolitions and all of these things. And so currently today, we are in the process of having great discussions around smart ways to revitalize yet keep the historical significance of it, even though the bricks are well over 100 years old and not meant for being on the ground, right? They're meant for being walls, but they've been kind of made into this ground. So, so today, that's part of the purview of what the HOA is fiduciarily responsible for in keeping and maintaining. The thing I love about living on the lane today is that when you move in, you get a map of the lane. And in this map, it has all of the houses, the people who live in it, their name, their phone number, their kids' names. And so you get to know all of your neighbors who live in this wonderful little community. And it starts with the moment that you move in. In fact, as a new owner, your house will often be referred to as the older owner's home. So, so when you get moved in, oftentimes you're like, oh yeah, you're in so-and-so's home. Oh yeah, you're in Marcella's home. It's a nice neighborhood nod that these homes are built for the neighbors. So we love that. In the Denver Public Library, there are all of the blueprints. They're actually pretty amazing to look at. And for folks who are on the call, you can actually go to denvermodweek.com/SDLC. There's a timeline PDF there, and on the back there is more descriptions of the different houses there. So denvermodweek.com/SDLC, and you'll get a PDF of that. Folks in the room, there's the laminate copy of the history and timeline and some of the pictures of the homes. So this storm design is actually repeated, and if you come down here, for those virtually, if you come down here to Kephart, you can see the images of another neighborhood that was built just 10 minutes away from South Dahlia Lane called Kentucky Circle Village. Johnson and Sternberg got back together and they designed it as a church-sponsored senior housing project. The coolest thing is that it's a cooperative of churches who built the senior housing project. And it's designed almost in the exact same way that the lane is. In fact, my mom lives there, and Barbara Kay Johnson, and others actually also lived there in their older ages, which is such a neat thing in terms of that history. Today, our lane events, this is something that is the neighborly disposition connection. We continue to have these types of events like a July 4th parade. I can't tell you, I have all these pictures I was looking at earlier today of like original lane parades where they have this like crazy janky trailer that they would put like a band in and pull around the lane. And to this day, we're going on, what, 60 plus years. The fire department comes to our neighborhood in the morning. All the kids come out and decorate all of their bikes, and they participate in a parade that has no people watching. It only has no spectators, only joiners, only people who are in the parade. And so the fire department leads the parade around the lane twice, and usually ends in some kind of amazing water hose celebration on the green. It is the most delightful Americana thing that you have ever seen. We still do our lane cleanup day. We do have Easter egg hunts. Some of these had kind of paused during the pandemic, but are starting to open back up. In fact, we just had a neighborhood progressive dinner where we got to go into 3 different homes and be able to celebrate kind of St. Patrick's Day, which is really cool. Impromptu walks happen all the time. In fact, I think it's one of the best things of being able to live in the lane during a pandemic is that it started almost as a parade, where it was a socially distant parade to be able to connect to your neighbors and walk on the street during the time when we couldn't invite each other into the houses. You'll see every morning, maybe more dogs than there are people in our morning dogs and coffee meetings that happen every morning around the lane as well. So it's a pretty cool neighborhood to live in. I feel very lucky and very privileged to be a part of this enduring neighborhood. In fact, one of our original neighbors who didn't actually get to live in he got to move because he was a professor and got a professorship in New Paltz, New York, and asked Gene for the designs. So he built a Sternberg house in New Paltz, New York. So we've got like step siblings over there. So that's what it looks like. And of course, I talked about Kentucky Circle Village. This is actually not the one that my mom lives in, but a really close one. This is her neighbors. It's pretty neat to be able to go in there and see the same exact like door frames, and the way that it's designed is almost uniquely and individually Sternberg. Do you know when Kentucky Circle was built, Josh?
59.
59. Okay. So right around there, they got back together again and did it again. So life in the lane, while not always easy when you are close to 32 homes and 32 houses, one of the great things that endures is this neighborly disposition. In fact, you know, we have an overarching architecture board. Part of our HOA includes an architecture committee. And the first thing that your architecture committee will ask once you've submitted any requests for changes and improvements, first thing they'll ask is, have you talked to your neighbors? If so, what did they say? So we are a collective and almost functioning like a small town. But it is so delightful to be able to know that some of the visions that Jean and Byron and Kay and others, that's enduring now here in the lane. So I'm going to pause for questions. I'm curious to hear from Victor. Victor, it sounds like you lived there. I want to know if you remember which house you lived in.
I certainly do. I certainly do remember. I actually moved out shortly before you moved in, it sounds like. And my house, I actually looked it up on Google Maps to remind me of the number. Let me just, I think it was 2451. It's basically the one that's most recently it had a giant remodel, and it backs up to the it backs up to the hang on just
street.
Yeah, so that street, the fence kind of is where that other road tees into it. So we would occasionally have lights shining into our house at night when people forgot to dim their lights, but you know, no big.
Yeah, you lived in Byron Johnson's house, Victor.
Yeah, and it was a really interesting time, I have to say. Being an architect, there's certain aspects of the houses that were a little frustrating. The main ones being really technical. The expansive soils were kind of an issue. So we had to spend a lot of money on screw piles to stabilize the foundation. And I'm not even sure that worked, honestly. I would say, you know, it's kind of funny because I would say that the reason that we left was really that we did not fit into the community very well. And so I have a certain wistfulness about the neighborhood because much of what you've talked about were things that my wife and I sensed when we first bought the house. And in fact, when we bought it, I had originally planned just to do a fix and flip kind of a thing because I'd renovated a couple of 50s modern homes for clients in Arapahoe Hills, and I really loved it. And you know, Gene Sternberg is kind of a legend, and so we were super excited about it. And in fact, we changed our plans and decided to stay there, you know, based on our reactions to the community at the beginning. You know, I had plans for some additions that were a little more modest than what got done to the house after we moved out. And but part of the problem is my wife and I are very busy people, and we just couldn't keep, in some senses, we couldn't keep it the way it was desired. And in some senses, we wouldn't. We had our own, way of doing things, and we just didn't fit into the community. It was kind of tragic for us, but everything worked out fine in the long run. And I think it looks like the people who moved in there did a cool renovation on the house, and like that.
Awesome.
And when we moved in, oh shoot, I just had that hysterical name thing drop out of my head, out of my consciousness. But the guy that was running the HOA when we moved in is the guy that has the big garden on the right when you first drive into the lane.
Yeah.
And oh shoot, it's just sitting right there. Anyway, I wound up getting along very famously with him because he's an old grumpy architect with lots of stories about the past, and he was a wonderful neighbor. It was fantastic.
Awesome, Victor. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, it's interesting, right? There's a tension with living in a small town or a small neighborhood that happens. Yeah. And that tension is always there. I think it's really unique, especially as we talk about maintaining and reimagining what mid-century modern living is all about. Mm-hmm. And so you have your purists and your people who want it to stay exactly the same, and you have your others who aspire to the past future vision of what it could be now that we have different designs and materials. And so there's always a tension to be able to manage. And it just, it's hard when it's such a small group to interact with, but yet delightful at the same time.
Yeah.
Great. Questions from anybody in the audience? I'll start with the virtual. What questions can I answer? Thoughts to share?
Is there any, is it registered as a historic community, or is it just recognized as a historic community?
Neither, in fact. Yep. It has, there's been a couple of pitches a couple of different times. In all small communities, there's lots of discourse and discord against what would that mean for the community and what would happen. So no, none has been pursued, though, Historic Denver and other places would be happy to help jump in to do some of it. So right now, no, not at all.
Interesting.
Does Arapahoe County have historic designation?
They do not. So that is the other thing.
The option
is national. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, there's no history in Arapahoe County, apparently.
Right. Exactly.
That's the one drawback of being unincorporated is you can't take advantage of Denver's landmarking.
That's true.
Yeah.
You can take advantage of like Littleton.
One comment that I would say is that in many ways, it was useful for it to not have historic designation because the community winds up policing itself for improvements and things like that. And I generally found that although there's a little bit of a McMansionism going on with the renovations, the houses are very small. And the way we live now is so much different. And I do think that nobody's done anything that's super egregious. It's all, they're trying to be sensitive and generally adhere to that thing of being like, but not the same. So it's very easy to see what's new. And the old stuff persists in its original state, as far as I remember. I think I drove around there in the last year, and I was impressed with how little McMansion-y, how it's resisted the McMansion problem, basically.
Yeah, our architecture committee does a great job. It is internal in it. We have standards and guidelines, but we don't have a lot of enforcement capabilities. However, the kind of enduring sense of what neighborly disposition is all about is something
I would say there's enforcement. There's definitely enforcement.
Yes. Look at the evil eyes and the judging if you don't do it right. The shame.
Yeah, I went through that process for an addition, And it wound up being, I found it to be a really fair process, and I, my plans were approved and everything was great, and it just didn't happen. But in a way, it kind of reminded me of like the Swiss thing, where people really just vote on what you're doing, and if your neighbors are happy, then
Totally.
everything's good.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Julie, you're unmuted. Did you have a comment?
Oh,
Anything you
no,
want to-
sorry. Didn't realize I didn't realize I was unmuted.
Oh,
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Fantastic. How about at the table here in real life? Questions, thoughts, comments about this grand experiment, South Dahlia Lane?
I still wish I could move in.
How often do houses come on the market?
Yeah, how often do they come on the market? It's really interesting. So they come in waves, and usually, I mean, not even one a year, right? But usually, like if one happens, then one or two will happen for some odd reason. In fact, over the past 3 years, we've had maybe two that have turned over and have brought with them. We actually have some new blood in the lane. In the original families, there were 85 kids who lived in the lane together, and they used to run in packs. There was no fencing in between the houses, and so the adults would be hanging out in the backyard, and all of a sudden, this huge pack of kids would just like run by. And now we have some new kids in the lane, and we've got kind of two tiers of kids. And for a long time, there was no kids. It was more of a retiree community. There was nothing happening. But now we have some new life and some new kids to be able to enjoy. In fact, during COVID, when we couldn't get together, my family bought these. They're dog toys, but they look like llamas, and we called them the South Dahlia Llamas, and invited all of the young kids to do a llama hunt. We got all the teens involved. There's about 8 of them. To go hide the llamas in the park, and the young ones could go on a hunt, distantly, to be able to kind of enjoy that. And so, there is that part, or that sense of communal living. Sometimes in our text line, parents will be like, "Hey, I don't know where my kids are. Can you send them home for dinner?" And if we see them, it's that like it takes a village kind of thing that happens, which is cool. So not often, and it's getting, I think, a little bit more and more challenging. I mean, if you can imagine, some of the people who live there, whose parents lived there, bought the house for $12,000, and now, right? Like, I mean, I imagine that they've hit 7 figures. So
Yeah.
Well, they got to be, I mean, Denver's median house price now is something like $700,000.
yeah, 749 last
That's going
month.
to that'll definitely put pressure on the community, because when someone spends $750,000, they feel a certain authority over what they own.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Well, thank you for coming along with me and giving me the pleasure to share this great experiment, this grand experiment in community.
Well, thank you, Dana.
So 9 years. In fact, my husband and I got married on the lane, and we hand invited all of our neighbors to our wedding. And so that was 7 years ago. Yeah, like 9 years. For the newer members of our community, we've been here forever. And for the residents who've lived there kind of all their lives, we're still new.
Well,
I don't know if I can squeeze in one last question, but I had heard a rumor when I was there that the community had been visited by Nikita Khrushchev when he was on his tour of the United States. Have you heard that story?
Sure have not. No.
No. Well, you can find out if it's true.
I'm gonna look for a motion to adjourn, and then we can hang out for a bit. I hope Dana will stick around and we can chat. Can I hear a motion to adjourn? Second. All in favor, say aye. Motion passes, meeting adjourned.
Thank you for letting me attend.
Thank you.
So something I think's really neat, Dana, is everybody, so that project, right? You know, we're a few years here before Arapahoe Acres. You know, this was the thing, he got to, you know, his whole idea, all these communities, he got to build
He
it
got to build it.
right out of the gate.
Yep.
You know,
For his family.
for his family.
Yeah, and live in it. He had the vision of what this cooperative life could be and what this modern kind of designed living could be, and then he got to live in it. I think that's just really neat.
Really amazing that he pulled it off.
It is amazing that he pulled it off. It's amazing the feats that they actually pulled off. The duo of Johnson and Sternberg. So, for example, right, like if you look at the lane, one of the things that in the history articles in all of those different boxes or whatever, there's this whole story, and we haven't been able to disprove it. But basically, and we like don't pay any taxes on the green and the property because it's pork-bellied onto some congressional something that had passed that said, fine, I'll sign it if you release, you know, whatever about this in the South Dahlia Lane neighborhood. So that parcel of land doesn't exist. It's not anywhere. Yeah. So, you know, interestingly enough, the ability to for Byron to go back to DC, back and forth, and negotiate with the FHA on this like super modern way to be able to finance housing for this post-war boom that needed to happen and build the structures and the elements to be able to do that is historical and interesting. In addition to all the stuff that Gene designed and all of those things. So it was like this perfect partnership of like procedural and public acumen and design, architecture, artistry. And so that partnership, I think, just brilliantly worked together. And the fact that now, like the Kentucky Circle Village was a cooperative of 3 churches, they're independent churches, and they came together and they still support and fund this little affordable housing for seniors thing. And coincidentally, my husband's parents go to that church, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we know about this." I'm like, "What? How does this all work?" So it's pretty cool, you know, how neat that came to be, and it's amazing how they pulled it off.
Geneva Village has a super cool story behind it too, with the Geneva Lodge and all of that, but it's been completely lost. I probably should have like Rick come give a talk on the Geneva Lodge.
Yeah.
That whole thing is a super, super neat situation, but unfortunately, that's something that could go very much to the wayside with the lieutenant. Hey, do we need someone like a church or someone to step up and help fund that land or something? I don't know. We don't want to lose that one because it's awfully neat too.
From a, you know, obviously from a master planning perspective, it's really, really neat. But even the houses themselves, you know, everyone always makes that comparison to Frank Lloyd Wright and these kind of stuff. But Mr. Gass, you mentioned the Brewer House in Momo.
Right.
And that's what those houses really are, the split level. The split level house, you know, that was a really new concept.
The bi-nuclear house.
Oh, I'll do it.
You know what? She wants to stop recording.
Oh, I can't. It's not the host. It's fine. It's all good.
Don't worry, I do the final edit.
Okay. Awesome.
But yeah, one thing I was thinking while you were presenting too, talking about the design of the houses, is that you know, they managed to get FHA financing on those designs at a time when the FHA was famously rejecting modern
modern.
architecture.
Oh, interesting.
This White House is like mine came to be, because what they did is they took the traditional floor plan and then made it look a little modern. So then it could still be approved by the FHA.
Oh, approved by the FHA, but
And because it was the
appeal.
standard floor plan that they liked for
Yeah.
that versus the modernist architecture.
Because what was generally happening, the reason there aren't way more mid-century modern houses is that they were underappraising them significantly, to the point that builders could not make the money they needed to make selling a modern designed home. So that's why there's so few of them. And the VA is doing the same thing. So
Well, Byron must have been a hell of a fighter
I
himself,
know.
because if the two of them were getting along, they must have been two peas in a pod to do that stuff.
They were not two peas in a pod. We knew the both.
But he was a congressman only 2 years, you said, 59 to 61.
yeah. But before he was a congressman, he did other stuff in public.
Big connections.
Was he in state politics or?
I think he was in state politics. Yeah,
That's a lot to do with it.
they did. I know.
24 months. And then why was he only there? That was in that box.
Probably what's in the box. It's the secret.
You have
in the box.
connections in Washington.
Then you have them.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, they were interesting. There's the story of the stirrup and the one-wayness. Actually, so Sternberg and Arapahoe County got into it. They were like, no, it can't be one way and it can't be that width. You've got to make it two-way and you've got to make it wider because of fire hazards and you can't get a fire truck through there. Sternberg was like, bring your fire truck. I'm gonna show you. And so he demanded that they bring the fire truck to the stirrup to test out whether or not it worked. Sternberg got his stirrup. They made no changes to it. So he made it happen.
I mean, he did, but he must have compromised on the street width though, because it is wide enough for a two-way street.
I don't
So
know.
I have to like park first and then have another car.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I went in, my GPS did not tell me it was a one-way.
Oh, no.
Or one of the houses.
Uber Eats and all of them, they go the wrong way.
They all turn.
They all turn left every time.
So I learned after the first time I came in, I realized it was a one-way very quickly. Because everybody was like, what are you doing? And I guarantee every time a house goes for sale in your neighborhood, everybody's like, we're all gonna drive the wrong way on the lane. Like, I'm sure that there's a big comment, I imagine, every time now, because I look back on it. I'm showing that one in like 2017.
Yep.
The one that, as you leave your house, it kind of dips into that corner right there. That's
Oh, yeah.
drivable. But it's just comical, I imagine. And then I know, like, hopefully your neighbors like recognize my car at this point, but they're like, oh, okay, she's been here enough times. We don't have to like see who this person is.
Yes, I like to joke that it's a little bit Pleasantville, a little bit Stepford Wives, and a little bit the Jetsons. So like you walk in, if you drive in and the neighborhood doesn't know you, especially the people who like are walking around, you'll get the eye.
Yeah.
Of like, who are you? Why are you coming through here? This is our neighborhood. But then once you come in a couple of times, then what you get is that you get the full wave and the inclusion of like, oh, hey, how's it going? Right? Like people will wave to you and all of those things. You also know intrinsically that like for people who are passerby or who come in to walk the lane, they will walk the sidewalks. And so you know that they are not part of the lane community or the external community, like friends of people who live here because they use the sidewalks. We just don't.
Instead of the street.
Instead of the street. Yep.
I didn't know that it was one way at first time I turned left.
The
I
side,
was trying to shoot one of those, the drive-by videos that I know. And when you first saw that video, you're like, oh, you were going the wrong way.
Down your way.
I only did it because my GPS told me to go.
It does, yeah.
Because that house was right there. It was like straight off the left. And then I looked through and I was like, oh, well, nope, going out that way. Like, don't do the disturb the peace in here.
There's some neighbors who shortcut it. But
Just because they don't have to drive
It's
all
fine,
the
it
way
comes
around
up.
to get to their house. It's almost at the corner.
that's right. And it's interesting because it comes up every, I don't know, I'd say every like 5 or so years. This like, is it a one-way street? Is it not a one-way street? Is it the blah, blah, blah? And so the last time I was on the board, this was like 7 years ago or 6 years ago, we actually asked a little bit of, we inquired into Arapahoe County about the speed limit, because it says 15, and whether or not it is in fact a one-way street or not. They were like, those are not our signs, because the minimum speed of signs that we have is 25 miles per hour. So we don't know about what any of it is.
And we don't wanna.
And yeah, and they're like, I don't know. And so the Arapahoe County, our neighborhood is designed, what is it called? It's zoned as R for retired.
Oh.
It's just retired. It's just retired. And so when we did our renovation in 2016 and 17, we went and went up to the board and to the Arapahoe County, and it was really funny because we went with our plans, and they're like, oh, okay, are there any examples of that happening in like any previous examples of any of that? We showed a couple of examples, and they're like, how do your neighbors feel about it? And we're like, wow, this sounds very familiar. We've already asked our neighbors, here's what they think. And they're like, go ahead. It's fine. Like, there's no regulations anymore because it's retired. And so they don't much care. If your neighbors are cool with it, they seem to be pretty cool with it.
Who maintains the streets?
Arapahoe County,
The
they
streets
still
of-
maintain the streets. Yep, Arapahoe County. They
everything
maintain the
else is
streets.
private.
The Arapahoe County Police, they're the ones who, do that. And then the Skyline Fire Department is our fire department.
I was gonna ask.
But aren't they
which
gone
fire
now?
truck is for 4th of July?
A different one. It's not the Skyline one, which I think is interesting. And I don't remember what it is. There's like a couple of
If you're
folks on the social.
unincorporated, then it would just be.
No, it is this fire department that has been doing it since forever, since the dawn of time. So like the original one. It's like the original one, right? Like somehow there's some secret thing that you must for 99 years. Yeah, they do.
Secretly stashed in the box.
That's
Also
in the
with,
box.
how Gene paid off the fire department to come to the 4th of July parade every
Totally.
year.
They do. And
Here's
it is
my donation for 99 years of coming to do our 4th of July parade.
exactly. It's a delight. It's really fun. The kids love to be able to, dress up their bikes and do all of these things. And then they're in the parade. No spectators, just the parade. It's fun.
So you said some of the houses have the radiant floor. Some.
None of the houses that I am aware of have a radiant floor, or that the radiant floor is in use. Julie, do you know? Like, because it's in Julie's, it's only in the split level houses.
Yeah, I don't think when I moved in, I had to reroute all of my HVAC because it really wasn't working. So I don't know how many people, and I don't really know that I mean, it kind of is radiant, but they're like these strips on the floor, like at the baseboard, that have holes, and then the pipes are all underground. And so there are these clay pipes, and I don't know how many are successfully still working, but mine were not, and some of it had to be rerouted. So I don't really think it's not radiant as in
Forced air.
yeah, it's still forced air.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which
That's
is what
what
he
he
did
did.
in the
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't think any of them are working. So-
Yeah, it's not hot water radiant, which is like what we.
Right, exactly.
Radiant is,
Oh, okay.
Where they put in.
It's clay tile.
It's clay tiles underneath the floor, and then there's these little holes in the baseboard.
The copper or plastic pipe
Yeah.
embedded in the concrete.
Yeah, so I wonder if the slabs even really heated up.
Hmm?
I wonder if the slab really ever got hot with
Oh,
his
it would get
forced
hot.
air system.
Yeah.
You get it. Or radiant floor, it would be warm. You've got this whole surface of
Yeah, yeah.
the area of the house. It is the radiator. It's huge.
So all of them are done on slab. And there's a handful of all the piping to the water system that we built is beginning to deteriorate. So there's a handful of houses, including Victor's old house, that and the people who just bought our house next door, they have to jackhammer the whole floor to repipe the bottom. In fact, we are quite sure that we're going to have to do it because it starts to deteriorate, and it's because it's in the slab. It's the only way to redo. You have to trench it, and so there are a handful of houses that either had to be trenched because it broke on them, or they were going to do the renovations and they found that's a thing that they have to do beforehand. So in our next set, we're going to have to do that.
And that's something that each owner has to.
Oh yeah, it's all independent now, right?
Might
So
wanna get that rider on
It's the
your
plumbing
insurance.
in the house.
Okay. please just make sure.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, Josh knows a little bit of that. It happens in a lot of houses.
Fortunately, there aren't many houses in Colorado on.
Slab.
slabs.
You still have to go through the basement sometimes, attraction spots and basements and all that. Just depends on when they put it.
Fortunately, they didn't put the cliff maples on slabs.
Yeah.
But they did in California, and I've seen pictures on Instagram of people having to trench piles of dirt in their bathroom.
wow.
Now, was there any sighting according to views for the houses?
Yes. So it's super interesting. If you walk the lane in the winter, you can get a glimpse. Well, you used to be able to. There's like one spot where you can get a glimpse and you can see the star in, is that Morrison?
So the
The-
cross.
Or sorry, the cross. You can see it from the high point of the lane, like looking across. All the houses on that side, so Sternberg's house and Johnson's house and all of them, and the houses that face the green, you used to be able to see the mountains. But now there's mega buildings there. There's
You have mid-rise.
the old folks'
Retirement
house
home,
right there,
yeah.
which I'm like, this is fantastic. I can just like move over there onto the other side. I can still see the green. It's great.
Down on.
Look down on it. But yeah, so you can't see it anymore, but there's one spot because the lane is higher on the Dahlia Street side a little bit.
And the split levels are all on the top, right? So the low ones, they see over.
Yeah, the spillover ones are on the top. The adjustment of that makes for great biking and skateboarding and doing all things because you can kind of get this momentum around, which the kids do.
I'm sure.
So it's gonna be a fun field trip together.
Bring your skateboard.
Bring your skateboard. That's right. It's very adorable. It's fun to see. You just have a safe place for all the kids to go do their things. There's there's the teens who have their skateboards and kind of do stuff and hang out. And, we have sleepovers, like a annual camping night out where we'll all camp in the green and do stuff. And in fact, so Greg, my husband, during COVID, he went around to every house in the lane to see if we could fund collectively outdoor movie theater with like the stand up and the whole thing so that we could have movie nights just socially distant or whatever. And there was maybe one house of all of them that didn't contribute. Everyone contributed and said, this is such a fantastic idea. Yes, I'm in. Here's some money to do it. Even if they don't have never come. It's the delight in knowing that that's part of the community events that kind of kept everybody going, which was great. And so we would have the challenges is that it gets darker later in the summer. And so, 8:30 at night is a little bit hard when you have 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds who need to go to bed but still want to be up and be a part of the movie. But anyway, so we still do that. There's like 4 or 5 movies that happen in the summer. I mean, it's like this slice of Americana that is, it seems unreal, but it still lives.
But it's, the original, Eugene's original goal was to create a community.
He's succeeded. I think that's the cool thing is that
That's
the
what makes it
designs
incredible.
did it. Yeah. Cool.
I can't say our movie nights are in the lane, but I'd fit in with that. We had the whole screen during COVID. We got the whole setup. You have a giant screen, invite everybody into our
It's
backyard.
so cool. It's such a great
And all
opportunity
hang
to do
out.
it.
It's awesome.
Thank you. I have to go back. to
Thank
my
you.
notes. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
You get to go back to the lane.
I have to go back to the lane. Drive very slowly.
Back.
Cool. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Looking forward for the field trip. Seriously, like it's great. I love to be able to share and educate because that's the only way that we're gonna continue to preserve, especially with all the insane craziness that is going on and getting built in and around our area. It's bonkers, actually.
Like I said, we've gone up, our housing market has gone up 14% since January 1st.
Wow.
January 1st to March 31st, we went up 14%.
Wow.
The average home that was sold last month was 749, and then the average attached single family home was 495.
Wow, really?
And we only hit the average of 300,000 2 years ago for the attached single family. That had just hit, and that was like a big deal that for attached we hit 300,000. Yeah, it's wild.
Which my income's gone up now.
Yes.
It's only back to go up too.
I love it. I wish I'd done it sooner. Because I was living in this noisy apartment complex, it was one bedroom apartment, I worked from home, and now I'm in a 14 And I wanted to get out of university hills for a while. I know that's ironic because of the talk we just had, but yeah.
Hers doesn't feel like it's University of South.
No.
It's very
Separate. It's funny because I lived within walking distance of South Dahlia Lane for years, but I never went down the lane because of the sign that said a private community, and I was like, I don't want to disrespect that or, cause alarm. Well, also,
Yeah,
I mean,
They kind of are. You can feel it. It's the same. So when my husband and I met, he was sharing with me his dreams of what a house would be like. And I was like, oh my God, that sounds like mid-century modern. I love that stuff. There's this like totally super cool neighborhood that I've never been into. And there's a couple houses up for sale. Do you want to go see them? And I too was like, oh, it's a private community. We can't go in. I'm like, well, maybe we can go in because we're looking at the houses. So maybe that's okay. So we literally drove in. I can remember it was like a wintry evening. Our son was asleep in the back of the car, and we drove into the lane and saw the park with all of the stuff and all the houses. And we just had this moment. And it seems really lame, but we had this like angels singing, like light coming down moment where we're like, oh my God, this is our dream. This is it. We really want to live here. This would be great. And the houses that were for sale at the time, we were like, there's no way we could be able to live here. This is 5-year plan and maybe 10 years. And our 5-year dream plan ended up happening. It was like 5 months later, I got an offer on my house that enabled and allowed us to do it. And the day that I got an offer on the house, we're like, oh my God, is there a house on the lane for sale? And sure enough, there was. And we needed the criteria of having 3 bedrooms and a place for a home office, for my home office. The house that we looked at did. I took my husband like FaceTiming through it. He's like, yes, get it. Yes, it's fine. Yes. Like, we don't care which house it is. Let's just make sure. So, it's our forever home. This is where we will be, where we feel really lucky. So please come over. If you can, come on over and on the one way. Don't turn left. Just keep going around. Don't turn left. But the house that is it's got the big orange Jeep in the carport or whatever. Like, one of my delights is that it is a community that is open. We like to sit on our front porch in the summer. Often we have a particular drink that we'll offer folks who come by, and oftentimes anybody who comes by ends up hanging out on our front porch and spending time and visiting with the dogs and seeing what's around. And that's the biggest gift. And so it is the open invitation of what community is like, come on over, I'll show you my house. It's great. You can see how we really live and not the home tour live.
That's so lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you guys.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dana.
Thank you. See you later, Julie.
Bye.